Okay. Well, first off, I want to welcome everybody. My name is Coach Malik Hall. Um, my name is Coach Malik Hall, and this is Catch Up with Coach Sports Talk. Yeah, just got off the line with the Mannix brothers on the Big Jab. Please go check that out on thebigjab.com. Um, I love those guys. They're some good brothers, man. Um, Be that as it may, as we jump into these episodes, or I had a few people be like, "Bro, you're not coaching no more." I'm like, no, I'm not. Technically, no. So just a little backdrop on, well, what are you doing, Coach? Well, those who follow me on social media know that we do a yearly back to school event where we bring a lot of local artists and community leaders together to get vaccinated or vaccine information, as well as the local artists, local everything. We keep it local, local meaning Lewiston, Maine, and so um, we have forged that into our company, Teach to Move, which means to mentor, motivate. Move is an acronym. Actually, teach and move are both acronyms. I won't bother you with boring you with all of it, but move is essentially to an acronym to motivate, overcome, visualize, and empower our youth, coaches, teachers, and people of our community. We are not a nonprofit. We do have workshops and seminars that will soon be loaded up online. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm not a big subscriber guy, but if you do it, thank you. So with that, where are we going? So we're gonna finish off the college hour, and yes, we have started to go live. So you might hear or see my daughters. It is shout out to Indigenous People Day. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't even know where you land on that. I'm not sure where I land on that. So we won't talk about that. How about that? Fine then. All right. Where are we? We're gonna talk about a little top 25. I'm gonna pick out some of the teams that I wanted to talk about. And so we go do the four quarters, four conferences, and try to highlight four players and go from there. And so um, first, I'm gonna hope that my daughter just doesn't blow up my show. Yeah, she's like, forget you and your show, cuz. Care about your show, homie? What show? I care about what you making for dinner, B. That's what she on. Like I don't want to talk to no people. I don't care who you talking to, son. You know what I mean? Was she actually my? She's probably the only New Englander of our family. So yeah, yeah, my daughters are funny. All right, so we have the reason I want to talk about open up again. If you're just logging on, my name is Coach Malik Hall, and this is Catch Up with Coach. We're gonna handle the top 25. I'm gonna do a 4x4x4, which will discuss four teams, four conferences, and I'll try to highlight four players along the way. And so here we go. As I get into this, like keep in mind, guys, I've coached for 20 plus years on just about every level minus the BCS. That is included the NFL. And so, though we do an NFL edition, I like to show love to small ball and all of the college football is so vast. It's so much going on in college football. You got so many divisions. You got NCAA, you got NAIA, you also in within the NCAA, you got Division One, Division Two, Division Three, and a division subdivision of Division One is the FBS conference. Yeah, so that's where we are there. Yeah, so that's why I start my Mondays off with college football. That's just in case you were wondering. The second reason that I started off with college football because I spent more than half of my career as a collegiate coach. Though I had a cup of coffee in the NFL, it is a cup of coffee like this. Oh, I'm already leaving. Yeah, that's what the NFL means. Not for long. All right, so yeah. So where are we going with this? All right, so as I talked about that 4x4x4, four conferences, four players, and four playmakers. And so as we go into it, the first, as the top 25, we'll address the four conferences within the top 25. Uh First we go start off with Nebraska. Yes, Nebraska is winning. Yes, Nebraska is number one in their division. Yes, Nebraska did fire their coach in the second week. And yes, Nebraska did have some embarrassing losses. But here's the thing I want to say about that. A lot of people have embarrassing losses. You do not compete in a level, any level, and come away just unlearned. I don't want to say unburned, but unlearned. And the reason I say you don't compete at any level and walk away unburned is because, see, unlearned is because you're going to get burned. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to get a spanking. You're going to because if you don't, you didn't learn anything, which means you already have all the answers. And I'm willing to bet. I tell my son all the time, hey, bro, stop acting like you got all the answers. You don't have all the answers. And if you just listen a little bit, I might be able to save you from a few butt whippings. And I don't mean by me, I mean by the life, okay? Period. Life, it gives him enough butt whippings that I do not have to. Yeah. All right. So with that, Nebraska, getting back on track. And I also like having a show because I can just talk. I mean, I really talk. So my therapist says, okay, so we are all over the place. Let's reel this in. So as we talk about what am I doing? Coach, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing catch up with coach, teach the move. We're interested in the social emotional health of our youth and leaders by teaching them how to move, by motivating them how to overcome and visualizing and empowering them through their challenges in and out of the classroom, on and off the field of competition. So that's the company. But with that being said, my therapist was like, coach, like, that's why you come see me. So we can talk through some things, talk through some of the transferable skills that you have, talk through some of the things that you want to do. And I had to be honest with myself. And I said, I'm on the Mannix Brothers. I enjoy radio. I was a radio DJ for a summer at UMass. Shout out UMass at the zoo. Yeah, I got fired from that job too. Well, what you want me to say, man? Listen, football doesn't give you a lot of room for a lot of a lot of extracurriculum activity. And when you do that extracurriculum, it's normally after hours, right, wrong, whatever. That's just what it is. And so you, when I when I started off in radio, or when I interned at the radio station at UMass, it was throwback. It's none of this digital stuff. You couldn't film anything, and so um, I started. I thought, let me start my own show, and that's what we're doing. Um, and so I get to highlight whoever I want. I don't have an agenda. We will be broadcasting, as you can see, in my basement, and we're working on a few deals to broadcast some in some local spots in Lewiston. So if you have any suggestions where they want mind sports talk as the background of their wine and dine, by all means, drop me a message. But we'll see what we can do when we get to that part. All right, enough of the rambling. Let's get to the football. I like to give a little context for some of the people who might be coming on and like, who is this dude? I don't know how far stuff goes, where it goes, because I don't care. I do it because um I love to do it. I love to talk about sports. I love to move people, motivate them over motive. I love to move people and motivate them, teach them how to overcome and teach them how to visualize success and to empower them. And being that this is a sports show, that also might mean your wallet. If you listen in, you might be like, oh, I'm going with Coach Hall bets. And because let me keep it real, I do not bet because the NCAA says don't bet on it. That's what they say. And so I do not bet. I don't know about coach college football again. I know the NFL definitely don't let. I think the NFL lets I think the NFL let them bet on college kids, man. I don't know. I doubt the NFL lets coaches bet on any games. So considering I'm not a big better, but I realize that's a part of what it is. Like football has made a killing by making it transactional for the people who may have never played the game. Um, my wife doesn't know much about football outside of. I shouldn't say she doesn't know much about football. She might know more than what I even know because she's been around it for been married for 14 years. And so for 14 years, she's traveled up and down the East Coast with me from job to job, from firing to firing. And so, yeah. But in the event, football is now much more transactional for the everyday person. And I think shout out to the NFL by setting a matrix and a bar to make it a palatable sport for people who may not have ever played, who may not know the nuances or the move within the move of the game, all of that. And so, as we talk about Nebraska, as we get in Nebraska, shout out Coach Mark Whipple. That's my guy. I played for Mark Whipple. The reason we going into Nebraska for one reason and one reason only is because I played for Mark Whipple. And so, if you wanted to know, well, man, Nebraska really ain't doing nothing, man. Why are we even talking about them? It's because it's my show, and I can talk about whoever I want to talk about on my show. And because I played for Coach Whipple. I bangs with Coach Whipple. Like for real, for real. Like, man, here's why I appreciate playing for him. If you didn't watch the interview, go watch the interview. Cause he always kept it real with us. He was always a buck with us. He was hard on us, but he was always a buck with us. Um, if you play like crap, he was gonna tell you play like crap. Period. If you play well, he was gonna tell you play well. And he'd be like, wait, you're turning into a guy, That was guy. You're a guy. That means like, hey man, you're starting to be somebody, right? And so, like, I've always appreciated that about him. The other thing, the reason my mom loved him was because he came into Detroit, Michigan on the east side. He came into the D on the east side. My mom worked for a special needs school. She's a teacher. And I was coming home from a junior college. And I was they had offered me, signed me. He had came, flew him and Mike Casano, flew out to Detroit, Michigan. Shout out Detroit to the east side of the D. They don't even the school not even open anymore. So there's no even point in me shouting out the school. And so he shows up on the east side of Detroit. My mom like, how will we know it's him? I'm like, trust me, you'll know it's him. They pull up, I think I don't even know what they pulled up in, but when they pulled up, everyone knew they weren't supposed to be over there. So the principal or some administrator ran out, grabbed him, got him in the building. But he wasn't tripping. He would eat. Coach Whip ain't about being scared at all. So let's set the tone there. There ain't no scared in him. And so they got up out the car, um, and came up in the school, and my mom shot every question she wanted at the head coach. Period. And keep in mind, I committed to UMass. Um, I committed to UMass before my visit because I wanted to be somewhere in the mid year. And so, man, Coach Whip, he kept it 100 with us. He kept it 100 with my mom. I had an opportunity to enroll in the graduate school, all of that, and it all worked out. That's why I got nothing but love for UMass. Who would have thought I would have been coaching? I wouldn't have. That was not the plan. And so my mom every now and again asked, "Yo, how was the coach you played for doing?" And so that's why we talked about Nebraska, and because I saw his interview, and his interview, I enjoyed it, and I thought so. Let's jump in it. So Coach Whip's like, he's on the interview. He's like, look, I don't know if you know. So first off, they beat Rutgers, okay, in New Jersey 14-13. No, it's not an impressive win. Yes, he only won by a point, but a win is a win, and respect how hard it is to win. Okay. And so they win. Okay, they win now. Keep in mind, he goes on to interview him. They have already gotten rid of the head coach. Okay, they have an interim head coach, all of that good stuff. But we're talking about Coach Whip, and so he goes on and they look. I told the players, look, if he said these, I'm not gonna quote him, but to some degree, and I've already been clear on my pod. Like, listen, you either getting fired or you getting hired. Your job is to find a way to stay if you in that middle ground. And so he's talking to the press. Let's be honest, guys. If I don't win, we getting fired. So it's no reason to sugarcoat this. So he spoke to the players the same way. Look, we're in first place in the West. Don't worry about who we lost to, how we lost. All we can control is our future, and our future is right now. We have Rutgers right now, and if we can get Rutgers, we still keep moving in the right direction. So, like, quiet the noise and go play. You can't ask for a better. First off, and that's why I appreciated playing for him because he was like that in the locker room and he was like that in the media. Now, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't care how you feel about him. That's between you and you. And so my point to the the Rutgers and Nebraska conversation and game, do not sleep if you find Nebraska on a low key run here, right? I'm just telling you because here's why. Here's why. And don't you, I'm not getting into the fires and hires. Here's why. Oklahoma, it turns out that they were trash. Okay. I shouldn't say they were trash, but they're not doing well. Turns out that Oklahoma's not doing well. So that loss to Oklahoma is, but check it out. The loss to Northwestern, that loss is the one that hurts. But they beat Indiana, they beat Rutgers, they can beat Purdue, and it looks like the fighting Illini is they just caught the top 25. Okay, now whether they can beat Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, that's hearsay. But what they are and where they are right now, they're not in a bad spot. I mean, they got Purdue. And so if they can get Purdue, I only expect Nebraska to find themselves making if they get Purdue, the Minnesota game counts, the Wisconsin Iowa game counts. That's how they go win the West. Period. They lose to Michigan, they lose to Michigan. It won't count. It'll count to the overall record, but they could potentially find themselves in a battle to win the West and play for the Big Ten. Because guess what? They don't have to play. They do not have to play Ohio State. And so, food for thought. Food for thought. Hey, you take it for what it's worth, whether you do the dishes or not, or whether you be like, Coach, I don't agree. Don't agree then. It's all good. All right, let's move on. Alabama. All right, why are we talking about Alabama? Because Alabama fell out of their rankings, but them falling out of the rankings don't mean too much a thing. Why, coach? Why don't mean a thing? Well, one, they're playing with a freshman quarterback. And the freshman quarterback made freshman quarterback mistakes. And in his freshman quarterback mistakes, he was still able to get a W. And so you got to when you look at it from that perspective, you got to say, well, ultimately they won. What else is it to talk about? Nothing. And so Alabama got the W. Now, here's why we're talking about Alabama, because this brings us to the Tennessee game that they play next week. I think Tennessee and the Hooker kid, whoa, if Bryson is not back, upset, watch out. I know we're talking a week ahead, but they did get it done. Tennessee stock is going up. And let me tell you, if they beat Alabama, you heard it here. I really don't. You probably think I listen to a lot of sports talk shows. I really don't, outside of sports radio, where I keep it local with the Mannix brothers. So I can't say that they're saying this right now outside of here. What I can tell you is I got this dude. He beat Alabama. I got this dude for Heisman. You heard it. That's how I feel. And Tennessee, listen, listen, listen. Tennessee handled LSU. Handled LSU. Handled LSU. That's fact, cuz I'm just telling you the facts. All right. So, okay, now let's move it on. Those are last thing to talk about. Last team to talk about, and it's the Big 12, because the Big 12 I don't really care much for, but TCU Coach Sonny Dykes. Why am I talking about Coach Sonny Dykes? Because um Coach Sonny Dykes, man, one of the things, he's at TCU. TCU is made a living off of being middle of the road. Just steady she goes, and then they peak, even though they have a new coach. And that's so, Coach Sonny Dykes, you might not know it, and I didn't know it until I had researched him, right? And I like him even more. Yes, the SMU thing didn't go well. Whatever. SMU hasn't, and I shouldn't even say it didn't go well. He got that thing. Hey, hey, come on. He got it going. He got that pony going. He got it going. But what shout out to my man Tim Ross, another podcast or a person that I listen to that pours into me virtually, if you will. Like, I watch his stuff and he says some great things, man. You gotta know, and I said it before, you gotta know when the bread is stale. When the bread is stale, you gotta know it. And he knew the bread was stale. And whether or not you wanted to say he didn't do that well at SMU, like, look, he hit SMU in the middle, and then the pandemic happened. And so he got to SMU the same time I got to Bates College. I remember it because he was coming from Cal, and the Cal thing, it worked until it didn't work. And so I think the reason I'm speaking to Sonny Dykes is because he had made I don't know if this man's a Christian or not. And I should not be proclaiming his people faith and all of that if that's how you feel. That's not where I'm going with this. But this dude, the reason why I looked him up is because, one, I've coached for 20 years, and I'm like, I know who he is. I know he's a Kentucky guy. He learned the spread from the old school Kentucky guys, Leach, all of those guys, right? Was at La Tech with some guys that crossways of people that I know. And so I'm like, and his name in TCU, because they're that middle of the road team that just floats and then takes off every year in the Big 12. But I know they have a new coach, and I knew it was Sonny Dykes. So I looked into Sonny Dykes, right? So I'm like, wait a minute, man. Who is this guy? Just in case you were wondering, he's a baseball guy by trade. All right. That's the first thing that I love about him. Second thing I love about him is he started in high school. The third thing I love about him, he got bit by the football bug because when you're in high school, man, look, they need volunteers sometimes. Though he was in Texas, if you were a Texas volunteer, it's expected you know something. This is not no, this is not Charlie mess around. Hey, come, coach, come out and help me. No, that's not what this is in Texas. So, um, again, we're talking about Coach Sonny Dykes. Okay, um, baseball guy by trade, Texas Tech grad, goes to high school, J.J. Pierce High School, coaches high school running backs. No, I don't know. I didn't know any of this prior to me doing my own research, and this is why I like him. And so he gets bit by the bug, and then he says, "You know what? Let me just go on and go to a juke. Let me like really see what this hat. Let me see if this is real." He goes to Navarro JUCO from Navarro JUCO as just a guy running backs. When you're in JUCO, you everything, okay? And then because you're in the JUCO circuit and you're getting recruited and players are going, coaches are going in and out, he lands a GA job at Kentucky at the height of guess who? Guess who? Tim Couch. So nothing but respect for this dude. He's doing his thing over there at TCU. Do not be surprised if TCU ends up in the national playoff. All right. That's it for the major college football. Now we will go into the mid majors. I picked 4 mid majors. Okay. And those 4 mid majors that I picked, okay, I try to pick out some players, give them some recognition, whether that mid major be, we keep a division one, but when I say mid major, I'm going everything that's not on TV or that may not cross your eyes in your social or definitely is not being talked about on ESPN. And so I want to highlight players in that position. And so, okay, we go to the second quarter of our 4x4, or the second quarter of our 4 quarters, and we talk mid-major. Shout out to Eastern Michigan getting it done 45-23. Okay, now Eastern Michigan is, I love Eastern Michigan for one reason because um I was trying to go to Eastern Michigan. Okay. And it was a big school that is 45 minutes from my home, man. That's where I wanted to be. And so in my mind, if I could get to Eastern Michigan by way of the JUCO, by way of a new ball coach, because they were always turning over coaches there, right? And so all of that, I'm like, man, let me see if, and they offered me, but at that point I was already committed to UMass. And my homeboy Ern was like, dog, don't go back home. But why I wanted to go back home, that's neither here nor there. Or that's a story for the book. Oh, but anyway, shout out to Eastern Michigan getting it done 45-23. The quarterback over there is nice. T Powell, he went 20 for 30 for 3 touchdowns. S. Stevens, hey, listen, this dude is like a I'm trying to think. Like, he's not like All-Star. He's not that big. He's about 6'1", 225. I love what he does, though. And because I was conflicted 2 weeks ago when they popped UMass, he toast that thing. He went 24 carries for 90 yards, 3 touchdowns. And shout out to D List Laster over there. He had the ball, 6 catches for 104 yards. That man got some yak after the catch, and he can catch a deep ball. I smell fade. Yeah. All right. All right. Next team to talk about in our second quarter as we go through before we get to the halftime. Once we get to the halftime of the show, we cut it off. And then we come back and give you our NFL analysis in addition. Okay. JMU, if you do not know JMU is formerly a team by way of the CAA. If you're not familiar with the CAA, maybe you are the Atlantic 10. If you're not familiar with the Atlantic 10, and I got some old heads on this thing, the Yankee Conference. All right. But anyway, JMU, they are bumping up in the rankings. But if you didn't know, they did just bump up conference, or should I say divisions. They coming from the CAA division of FBS, and now they are in the big times. If you don't know, now you know. JMU just beat Arkansas State 42-20. Not because they beat Arkansas State, it's because they'll probably go undefeated and they're going to crack the top 25. So they'll be on some people's radar. And if you don't know, okay, this Ty Cynthio kid went 28 for 37 for 4 touchdowns. Oh, man. I'm going to try to get his name right. Hey, man, I'm going to tag you, but excuse me ahead of time, okay? My man, Percy Age or Agayabesi. Percy Agayabesi, he went 21 carries for 158 yards and 2 tutties. This dude, Percy, is for real. So shout out Percy. Ayo, 21 carries for 158 and 2 touchdowns. And then they do have an air attack. He didn't get on the board at a touchdown, but my man Chris Thornton went for 9 receptions at 173 yards. So shout out JMU. All right, moving on to we are going to jump into the Ivy League now. As we jump into the Ivy League, shout out because I coached into the Ivy League. Shout out to UPenn. Who they put up 59 points last week, but that's not who we're talking about, and that's not who we're recognizing. Though I'm going to tell you, Harvard out in Cambridge, Boston, you might expect them to win, and they did 35-28 versus Cornell. But we're going to shout out the running back, Aiden Bourget. He went for 28 carries and 163 yards and 1 touchdown. Listen, I'm a defensive guy. I always check the run stat first because a lot has to happen when you go from center to quarterback to blocking to throwing to catching to not fumbling or to not getting it picked and then running to try to find a touchdown. And so, though it is offensive coordinators have been it is much easier to get the ball to receivers without having to go vertical today. But if you can run the ball, you can get it all. That's just bottom line. Run if you can run the ball, you go be able to pass the ball, and you go be able to pass with a big. And so, shout out to Aiden. Here we go. Next play, Bill and Mary. Bill and Mary. Now, this game was dope. This game is a CAA game. I think this game was at Delaware, wasn't it, Hall? No, and shout out to the CAA. I am a CAA champion. That was corny. Yeah, I thought so too, but I liked it. And if I like it, I do it. And so when it feels good, just do it. Not all the time, but on the show, I try to do what feels good. And what feels good right now is moving on. Okay, so what was we talking about? William and Mary. Bill and Mary. I know, here we go again. So we got Bill and Mary. I love Bill and Mary right now. Shout out Coach London down there. Play with his son at UMass. That's not why we highlighting him. But this game came down to the wire. They were at William and Mary, okay? And let me tell you, we're shouting out Ethan Chain right now because Ethan went 50% for field goals. He missed some close ones. He missed a 32-yarder, I think. He missed a 26-yarder. But no, it don't matter what you miss. It does not matter what you miss or when you miss. And when they call your name for the next time and you nail it to put your team up in the game, that's why you getting the shout out, bro. Ethan Chain nailed a 41-yard field goal to put William and Mary up. Okay. But listen, you're playing the Delaware Blue Hands. All right. They got just as many national championships as App State, Youngstown, and JMU. Okay. They not weak. They're going downfield. I mean, going downfield. Hat, run, hat, run, hat, run. And guess what? They throw a pass, and then It's a fumble. A fumble. This is how the game ended. It didn't even go into overtime because when he threw the ball, dude catches it. And listen, the CAA, it's going to get funky at the end, baby. It's going to get funky at the end because, and shout out to my man. Why am I shouting him out? Because the fumble recovery, my man Nate Lynn. Now, that's what the stat sheet says. And that game was not online. And so I'm saying Nate Lynn because Nate Lynn probably showed the most effort when that ball came out. Now, if he recovered it or not, or if he forced it or not, or if the replay was faulty or not, I can't control that. Look, the game wasn't on. I had to watch it through the box score and the stat line and the play-by-play. But it was a game that I saw, and it crossed my eyes. Hey, Bill and Mary, congratulations. Again, Ethan Chang, the made money of the game. 41-yard field goal to put him up in the effort of the game. Nate Lynn with the fumble recovery. And that's because most of them spotters in the booth are trash anyway. I hate it when they messed up my stats the next day. I know, I'm getting personal. Next game, last game that we will talk about, and then we go push, okay? All right, Merrimack. You're like, Merrimack? Well, this is my small ball hour. And we're going to halftime after this. And why are you talking about Merrimack? Because Merrimack iced my tail one time. Merrimack put up 45 points on me, and they were a D2 school. And that hurt. You ever been? Listen, here's what I know about most people who speak about athletics. You have never been humbled. You have never been humbled by getting 45 hung on you. You've never been humbled by getting shut out. That right there, I have you think once or twice before you have something sideways come out your mouth or you say something tongue in cheek. Okay, so I'm getting off of my horse on that. But that's why I'm talking about Merrimack, because Merrimack spanked me. And it wasn't a good spanking. And it was in a New York paper, and the New York paper was like Wagner College gets 45 plus hung up on their top 25 defense. Not no more. It wasn't top 25 no more. Anyway, we didn't do well that year, but we did recover and we did make it right at the end. So, okay. Anyway, you're like, well, coach, get to it. I'm going to get to it. Jesus. Jeez Louise. All right, Merrimack. That's what we're talking about. All right, why are we talking about Merrimack? Well, I just told you because they put some points on me before and it was bad. So Merrimack, we go shout out Victor Dawson, okay, and Tavon Edmonds Jr. Now, before I finish this shout out, all right, I'm shouting this out for a few things I want you guys to consider. When they came up into Wagner, they were a D2 school. And then when they moved into the Northeast Conference, excuse me if I said the CAA, they moved to the Northeast Conference after I was gone. They just beat Duquesne 28-21, and it was a barn burner. Barn burner. Okay, now, well, coach, why are you talking about this? Because I haven't seen this all and all of these barn burners. I have not seen a 1-2 punch in the backfield yet. This is the first 1-2 punch I've seen in the backfield that I think is worth noting. And is deliberate. It's not like you have one guy go for you have your second back get 6 carries and he went for 70 yards. Because I mean, that's just an explosive play. That's not, you give your back more than 10 carries, you are being intentional. Your second back, you give your back more than 10 carries. You are being intentional about having a 1-2 running back punch. And so that's why I'm bringing them up. This is the Northeast Electric. Power and Electric. Northeast Power and Electric. My man, Victor Dawson, he's 6'1", 225. He a little bit bigger than that, but I respect that they cutting you on the Weight Watchers on the, whatever. Because the media matters. I get it. Okay, so Victor Dawson, 6'2", 225. He toted that thing 22 times for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's made money, bro. That's made money. You got a bag. You got a bag waiting for you next week. But here's the kicker: when you get your bag, and to all the playmakers that I may shout out, all the playmakers who won. Because look, Coach Charles is. I'm just trying to highlight players that normally may not get highlighted, highlight programs that no one really talks about. And look, I go through the box score and I go through the games every weekend. Every weekend, this is what I do. Is a part of what Coach does. And so, if you get shout out on my show or if you get shout out on the gram, look, you got the bag, and it's a proverbial bag for the record. You got the preferred, because we used to give our players Made Money Awards, Scared Money Awards, X Factor Awards. We also gave Scare Money Awards, the guy who had the play in bag but missed it. And we would highlight them and put them on the board, show them all the love in the world. Okay. And that board existed in the main lobby of the weight room where all the athletes had to walk back and forth from. And the reason from that, and this is pre-social like that. I mean, social was moving, but not like it is today. The reason we did that was because we wanted them to know we appreciated the effort that they poured out, whether it ever showed up in the stat sheet or not. And we made it an effort to think about who can we highlight that didn't show up in the stat sheet, and that was always our X Factor players. Okay, so now with that, my man Victor Dawson went for 22 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And that's why I named 2 running backs. This is the first 2 running back combo that I think that I've seen teams have deliberately played both, and it wasn't subsequently based on injury. And so my man Tavon Edmonds Jr. Tavon Edmonds Jr. Okay. I don't know if he is any relation to my man Chris Edmonds because they both from the same area, but that's neither here nor there too. If he is, my man Chris Edmonds, I love you. Keep doing your thing. I see you doing your thing. And if this is any kin of yours, I expect him to keep doing his thing. But bro, you fumbled and they recovered it. Lucky for you and lucky for the team, they backed you and lifted you up. You owe the team a touchdown next game. But with that, he went 14 carries for 99 yards. They got a nice little power and a nice little electric thing going there, right? A nice little combination there. I love the 2-back combination. I love the deliberate. Like they gave their running backs the ball 36 times. And they threw the ball 24 times. And so no, 20 times. And the quarterback, you got work to do, but that's not what we're doing. So shout out to whatever. Shout out to Merrimack. Shout out to Victor Dawson. Shout out to Tavon Edmonds Jr. Hey, bro, you owe them next week from that fumble. Hey, you got some skill. You got some skill, and you the one hitter quitter that they gonna need to keep going into the NEC and try to win the title. And Victor Dawson, keep toting that thing. Keep laying the boom. And Merrimack, I see you, man. Shout out Merrimack. They put 45 on coach as a D2 when I was in the Division One, as a Division One coordinator. I learned so much from that game. Okay, so look, man, this is Coach Malik Hall. This is halftime. I'll see you in the next half after Monday Night Football, where we'll close it out and talk college football. Close it out and talk NFL football. So again, thank you to the MANNIX brothers for having me on. This is Coach Malik Hall. Catch up with Coach.